Alright, what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Today we're back with a tier list video. Yep, I said that right. We are doing a tier list today. This is going to be fun. And we're going to be doing it on Star Wars. Now, why am I doing it on Star Wars in 2025? Mainly because I've checked my channel and actually haven't done a Star Wars tier list. And to be honest, Star Wars is one of my favourite movie franchises ever. And also because of the fact, when it comes to Star Wars, I think it changes like every week. So, you know, I thought, why not actually have a sit down and give you my official rankings of the Star Wars movies. Now, we got a few tiers. We got S, A, B, C, D, and F, and then haven't seen. I've already put the movies and series that I haven't seen on the tier just to save a bit of time. Just if you want to know the movies and series I have not seen yet, which I am planning to watch. So this will change, but obviously the Clone Wars and or Bad Batch, like those are the main three. Like I am gonna actually go and watch. The others I don't really care about, like Skeleton Crew and whatever. Also, Darth Maul is gonna get a series in, so you know. But apart from those, I have watched basically every single Star Wars movie and series, and we're gonna be doing a tier list. Now I'm questioning. Actually, before we get into it, I just want to say we're on the way to 500, and if we hit 500, that would be amazing. But, yeah, what I was going to say is, I don't know if we should go in chronological order, like when the movies came out, or if we should do it in the actual time and order, like the watching order. Because the thing is with Star Wars that is different to other franchises is that they go episodes 4, 5, and 6 first, and then they do 1, 2, 3 after. I'm not going to go into why they did that. It's just complicated. But I think I'm going to do it in time and order. And if I was going to watch the Star Wars movies, what order I'd actually do it in. So I think I'm going to do it in that order. And in that case, the first movie we're going to be doing will be Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Now, before the sequel trilogy came out, I think I would say this is the worst movie they've done. Considering they came off episode 4, 5, and 6 being really good, and then they released this, I think this is the weakest one. But being said, sequels came out years later, which ended up making these look not bad. To be honest, this movie got a strong villain. I think Darth Maul, very cold. I think he's very cool. Obviously, I like the relationship with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I think that's cool. Obviously, it makes Qui-Gon Jinn's death later on more sad. After following a whole movie, I'd put on Jinn and Liam Neeson's portrayal of him. Obviously, Obi-Wan's cool, but he more shines in the movies after than this one, so I'm not going to give that much critique on him. I think it was weird, the Anakin Padme kind of relationship, romance thing, because you need to remember, Padme is a child. I mean, sorry, no, Anakin is a child. And Padme is like, what, an adult, teen? Like, I don't know. Like, I think they were just forcing that romance a bit too much, in my opinion. Obviously, Jar Jar Binks was as well introduced in this movie, and he's probably one of the most controversial Star Wars characters, because you either love him or you hate him. So, like, it's just 50-50. Overall, this movie I think is the most boring in this trilogy, and for that, I'm going to put it into the D tier. I'm only putting in the D tier because I think there are movies that come later on that are worse, so yeah. Next up we're going to do is Attack of the Clones. Now, Attack of the Clones, obviously, is the second movie in the watching order, and this movie, in my opinion, is way better than the first, I think, than this previous one. Mainly because of the fact that I think the battles in this movie were more entertaining. Like, I think the Battle of Geonosis with everyone flying in the arena was pretty cool. I also liked the Count Dooku villain, obviously being the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, which is cool. I like, obviously, the fact we get more development on Anakin and Padme's relationship as well in that movie, because obviously that's the movie where that romance grows, and I know there's a few memes about the fact he hates sand. obviously, as well. We get to see the start of the distant relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. We start to see that kind of crumble in this movie, obviously showing what's going to happen in the movie after. Overall, this movie, I think, is better than the one previously. Even though this movie may have some flaws, I think this movie is better than the one before. And to be honest, I'm going to put it in... Also, it did set up the Clone Wars, which is pretty cool. But in my opinion, the best Anakin we do get in the prequels is probably in the third one, because the first one, it was alright. The second one, it was a bit meme worthy, and then the third one, which we're gonna go on to now, is where I think we get peak Anakin Skywalker. I think that's a fair place to put it. I don't know. Am I being too harsh? I don't know. Because I'm just trying to think of like movies and series wise if they are better or worse. You know what? I am gonna change. I'm allowed to change it. So it's not like once I lock it in, I have to stay there. So depending on what comes after, depending on where I might change, because the Attack of the Clones is, I'm tempted to change it, but I have to wait till the other stuff come out later on. Alright, next we got is Revenge of the Sith. Now, I love this movie. This movie is probably top 3 Star Wars movies, in my opinion. 100% top 3 Star Wars movies. Best in this prequel trilogy, 100%. Because I feel like it does everything right. It shows the rise of Darth Vader, the fall of Anakin. It shows the amazing battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of the movie on Mustafar. Probably one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars action fight scenes in the whole fucking franchise. It's that good. I like the fact how manipulative Palpatine was to show, and how he and Anakin, how he's obviously controlled Anakin to make him turn into the dark side. I think the Order of 66 attack was crazy as well, because to be honest, it's good because it shows why there wasn't more Jedi in the actual original trilogy, and I think it answers a lot of questions leading into the original trilogy, that people could have wondered during the original trilogy, like why is the other Jedi, like why is Yoda on a planet by himself, like all of that gets answered in this movie. And I just think all the battle scenes, everything in this movie is just absolute cinema. And for that, we got our first S tier, baby. No, not A tier. That's how I'd actually do the... Oh, no, not B tier. S tier, baby. Is it S tier? There we go. Alright, now I'm going to go to the original trilogy, boys. The first movies ever made. Now, I'm going to give you my honest opinion, okay? Star Wars New Hope. Now, what do I think of the Star Wars The New Hope? This movie, I believe, is... I'm not gonna put nostalgia bias into this, because I think if I did that, I wouldn't be giving it a fair ranking. Now, obviously, I know what everyone's gonna say. It's the first movie. You can't hate on the first movie. The first movie is iconic. Yes, to all of that. But you need to realise I'm doing it based on the movie. I'm not doing it based on the impact it had. If we're talking about this as a movie, it is a basic movie. Now, I think the soundtrack, the story, is good. I think the story is good. I think at times, like, I think at times it was a great movie. But being said, if I had to pick a movie to watch out of this trilogy, New Hope would not be it. It would either be the other two. I'm gonna say this now. I think it is the worst in the franchise. Not on the franchise, in the trilogy. But it is the first one. So, I'm gonna make a controversial decision here. And I'm gonna put it on... But it's the first one. You know what? For now, I'm putting it B tier. Yep, that's going to anger a lot of fans, but hey, I don't care. Alright, Empire Strikes Back. I love this movie. I love it. We got, obviously, the introduction of Yoda into the franchise. We get to see Yoda get training Luke, which is pretty cool in my opinion. We got to see the amazing battle between Luke and Darth Vader on... Is it Cloud City? Is it Cloud City? Or am I getting confused with the Lego movie? I think it is. Overall, this movie is sick. I like this movie. This and Return of the Jedi are, like, close to being which one I like more. But, that being said, it's either going to be... I think I'm going to put it in an S tier. I think S tier, 100%. I would put this movie in. I think it is probably the best out of the original trilogy. But, that being said, we got Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi is the movie to conclude the trilogy of movies. And at the time, this had to be a strong movie to end the trilogy. Because then it would have been considered a perfect trilogy. And did it deliver? Yes. Yes. It obviously showed us the final battle between Luke and Vader and Sidious. And I think if the franchise ended after this movie franchise would have been the best. Obviously, the sequels had to happen, and that's why it isn't as talked about. But trust me, the time period when no sequels came out and they didn't do anything with the franchise after this movie was the greatest times. But that being said, I think, like I said, it is close with Empire Strikes Back. And these could be swapped either way, but I don't know. I'm going to put it on A tier. Mainly because I think the Empire Strikes Back slightly edges... Okay, that just sounds weird. It slightly is in front, in my opinion, of then Return of the Jedi. Alright, now we got Last Jedi. I just dislike this movie. This might actually be my least favourite Star Wars movie of all time. They did a character suicide on Luke. They ruined his character throughout this whole trilogy, but especially in this one, because we didn't really get him much in the 7th movie, because he was in hiding, which doesn't make any sense, by the way. I bet they couldn't afford Mark Hamill's wage, hence why he wasn't in the movie at all. But, nah, being serious, talking about this movie, everything positive I could think about in The Force Awakens got basically wiped out when this movie came out. First of all, Luke character, I think, was just the worst I've seen him in this franchise. Not only the fact he died, but yeah. We get introduced to Rose as well, who goes around with Finn. By the way, she has... I don't really see any point of talking about her character, because she's only important in one movie as a possible love interest for Finn, but then we don't really get more of a character arc in the movie after. So, to be honest, her whole character arc in this movie is kind of irrelevant. We also get the death of Snoke. Oh, which, in my opinion, another bad idea, because he could have set up to be the next Palpatine, but hey, Kylo Ren had to kill him for some reason. Yeah. Honestly, I think it was because of the fact that every movie in this trilogy had a new director doing it. Because they couldn't find one director to do the whole three. And to be honest, this one was directed by the guy who did ruin the Justice League. So, this guy has already got a reputation for ruining franchises. So, well, I don't know if this actually came out before or after Justice League. But either way, he's this guy basically killed off Luke Skywalker. Metaphorically and literally physically. The only positive I give is probably that final face-off. Even though it wasn't really a battle, because as you can see, Luke wasn't really there. Luke v Kylo Ren. That was the only cool thing, I'd say, in that movie. But obviously, the fact Luke died was just frustrating. Also, I just didn't really understand the whole Princess Leia Force thing that she used to survive after her ship gets exploded. Because, to be honest, we see that, but that plot never goes anywhere later in the franchise. I don't know if that's because, obviously, the actor died, or they weren't even planning on doing that. But either way, this movie, just because it is probably the worst movie in the franchise. So, yeah. F tier. But trust me, guys, this isn't going to be the first F tier. Next up, we got Rise of Skywalker. Oh, I don't know about this movie. In my opinion, everyone that says this is the worst movie in the franchise, or the worst movie out of the three, I disagree. I think it is better than The Last Jedi, and I'll tell you why. Now, I think it was cool that they revisited the Death Star. Now, I know this caused a lot of issues, but I did find it cool when they revisited the Death Star. I think the battle scene with them fighting on the Death Star was pretty cool. But after that, I understand why it got hate. First of all, I think the fake out death with Chewbacca, making us feel like he actually got killed, and that they would actually do that. To be honest, once that happened, I wasn't surprised they wanted to do that, considering they did it to all the other characters in the fucking franchise. I thought they were legit actually going to kill him off. The one thing that did annoy me with this movie was the return of Emperor Palpatine. I don't understand. And to be honest, the only explanation we get to how he came back was one line, which is probably the most memed and most ridiculous line ever said in Star Wars history. Somehow Palpatine has returned. This movie, they only did it to appease the old Star Wars fans. But they threw the logic out the window. Because if a character gets thrown down a reactor shaft, of it exploding, by the way, not just a normal reactor shaft, how does he come back all fine? I don't get it. I don't get it. I think the fact that the twist is that she was a Palpatine. Also, don't like that. I did not like that either. But I think they only did it so they could connect the villain with the hero. I think the final battle as well, ruining a possible Kylo Ren cool arc, having Kylo Ren fight Palpatine with Rey, was a possibility that could have happened, but no, they decided to throw Kylo Ren down a fucking hole, and we don't see him until the end of the battle, where he sacrifices himself as well, which honestly I don't understand this fucking franchise. I also do see some parallels to Avengers Endgame with the whole final battle that they just ripped off Endgame, where it seems like, oh, we're about to lose there's like too many of them, and then boom, 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 everyone just comes out of nowhere. Similar to the Portal theme. But to be honest, the difference was no one got excited. No one went crazy in the cinema when that happened. But overall, this was the last movie to conclude a Star Wars Skywalker saga. And did they do a good job at that? Probably no. No. Now, I do think it's not as bad as the other one, but I'm gonna... And I think I'd watch it over the other two, so... Yeah. Alright. We are now concluded with the actual Star Wars movies. Now we got the series. Now, I'm gonna probably... What order do we do it in? I'm gonna do the worst one first. Yep. And that is The Acolyte. I just dislike this series. I did dislike the series. Basically, it's about this woman. I don't know, is she fourth senses? I don't even know. But this woman who has a twin sister who's evil. And then she gets framed for the work of the evil sister going on killing, I think, Jedi. Because the Jedi apparently were responsible for her mother's death. And then we get another villain who's, like, it's just so confusing. And honestly, it isn't good. The only positive I'd say is that they had the main character from Squid Game in it. But even with that, it wasn't enough to save this abomination of a series. Next up, we have got... What are we going to do next? Do we do Rebels? You know what? We'll do Rebels. Star Wars Rebels. I really like this show. I watched it when I was younger. And I enjoyed it. I thought I like all the characters. Ezra Bridger, Seb, Kanan. Obviously his death was sad, but it happened. And honestly, the villain choices. Admiral Thrawn. The Inquisitor. Darth Vader. Amazing villain choices. Honestly, amazing series. I really like this series. I think this is the best Star Wars animated, besides the Clone Wars, because I know everyone's going to be like, the Clone Wars is better. Yeah, I'm saying beside the Clone Wars, this is probably up there with one of the best Star Wars series. So for that will go... do I go B? I'll put B tier, because I realise if I put it A tier, then I'm saying that it's better than all of these. And because I'm not going to put it on the same level as Return of the Jedi, because that's just stupid. Alright, next up we're going to do is, I'll do Boba Fett. Another series I dislike. Basically, it was all set on one planet, which was Tatooine. And it basically shows what happened to Boba Fett after Return of the Jedi. And then also how of him taking over, basically, Tatooine. I don't know who the villain is in this. Obviously, as well, they obviously had Mandalorian and Grogu in it, which basically sets up for Season 3. And to be honest, I think that was probably their part was probably the only memorable part. Even though I kind of disagree with... Even though I kind of don't like the fact they did put it in the show, because, to be honest, they shouldn't really be having that storyline. But I think they would just set up Season 3 of Mandalorian, which I'll get onto later. Overall, the series isn't that memorable. Obviously, I like the only parts I did like were the parts that wasn't related to Boba Fett at all, like the Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian storyline. That's the only part I like, and that's not even related to the main story. So for that, I'm going to put it in D tier. Because it is better, in my opinion, than... Oh, no, that's Mandalorian, sorry. It is better than the other two. Now we're going to do Mandalorian. Now, the Mandalorian is complicated, in my opinion, because when it first came out, I didn't watch it. and mainly because I couldn't really be asked, and I didn't think it would be that good. I was wrong. When I sat down and watched this through its series was, I think, when season 2 came out. And I can't lie, I enjoyed the first 2 seasons, especially when Luke came in at the end. Was so sick. And honestly, if the series ended after season 2, I would honestly, I would put it A tier maximum. But then they had to release a season 3. And I'm not gonna lie, compared to the other 2, season 3 was disappointing. Yeah, so as I was saying, I honestly think it's a really good series. I think it is very strong though. Considering season 3 was a disappointment, I do think it's a strong series at the end of the day. And they are making a movie, so yeah. Overall, I am going to put it in A tier? Maybe? No. B tier, actually. If season 3 wasn't bad, it would have been an A tier series, 100%. Now, we're going on to Ahsoka Tano. Okay. In my opinion, this series was more like a Star Wars Rebels Part 2. And I'm not complaining with that. I think the fact that they did bring back the Star Wars Rebels storyline after so many years of just leaving it, and I was thinking they weren't going to do anything with it, even though they had potential to, they actually brought it back, which I enjoyed. I like the fact they brought Ezra Bridger back into the storyline. I also like the fact they brought back Sabine as well, making Sabine a big character once again in the franchise, in the series. Obviously they brought back Admiral Thrawn, and I like that. I like that villain as well. Obviously, this is all setting up, I believe, the Avengers level Star Wars movie where they could have all the characters like the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka with the Rebels team up to take down Thrawn. And that would actually be pretty cool. And to be honest, if that's what it's setting up, I'm all kind of hands-on with this. Obviously, like I said, the only issue I kind of have with this series, and to be honest, they did kind of fix it at some parts, but I think the potential it had, it could have developed more of a character, could have seen her face guilt over seeing Anakin as Darth Vader. Even though, well, this was really set long after Darth Vader got defeated, but it could have done that, or it could have gave us a flashback of what happened to her during the Clone Wars, you know? I mean, during Revenge of the Sith, even though they kind of already did that in Clone Wars, but hey, you know, they got season 2 coming out, and I'm not complaining, so overall, I'm going to put it in I'll put it B tier again. No, you know what? I'll put it C tier. Even though they did bring back a cool storyline, I do feel like it could have been better. And hopefully season 2 is better. Now we got to Obi-Wan. I love this series. This is probably their best season of the show. Maybe tied with Mandalorian season 2. But this series is so good. It shows Obi-Wan v Darth Vader. Their first battle ever. And honestly, when I say this, I mean it. Darth Vader looks actually fucking terrifying in this franchise. I'm not even lying. He looks fucking scary. And I love that. I love that a lot. I honestly think this is a great series. And honestly, anyone who disagrees with me, I don't really care. But if I had to be honest, it's an A tier. An A tier. The only issue I do have with this, which I don't know why they did this, but they have a young Princess Leia. I do not understand why they did that. But for the story, it makes sense, I guess. But apart from that, this series is great. Plus the end scene with Qui-Gon, oh, bro. This was great for the OG fans of Star Wars, and I like this a lot. Anyway, that is going to be my official ranking of the Star Wars movie, series, franchise. So, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you want me to do another tier list on another franchise that I have seen, leave in the comments down below what franchise that will be. But, without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and peace.